Today, we're going to do some grammar for week 3. Let's do it! So, really, a lot of words underneath the week 3 grammar, but it's all, related. Word choice, connotation, denotation, and word association. Basically, the importance of word choice and why you should use your words properly. Woo! Let's get started. Why aren't you starting? Boop. All right. So, let's think of tone. So, tone and word choice is the attitude or emotion toward the subject or the reader. How do you write something? Are you professional? Are you informal? Are you being rude? Are you being sarcastic? Kind of important to know what the message you're trying to say is. And it also will affect how the reader receives the message that you are communicating. If you're being formal, I'm going to think that you're taking things more seriously. If you're being sarcastic or informal, I will not respond in a formal manner as much. Let's get going. Using the appropriate tone. So, appropriate tone in academic writing is an important aspect of communicating in order to make sure that you have the best results. Being professional is always going to be significant in academic writing. I would always avoid some certain things. So, whenever you're thinking of tone, always try to ask yourself, who are you writing? No, that's number 2. Why are you writing the document? What's the purpose of the document? If it's academic, you're trying to, show that you've learned something, or you're trying to build an argumentative essay. Because of that, you should, write more formally. Who is your audience? Everything this term, the audience is going to be me. So because of that, write in a manner that I will be willing to read it. Outside of school, I think informal is fine, but for the assignment, I have to grade you off of how academically you are creating something. What do you want the readers to learn and to do with the information in the document? So if you're writing academic writing, you have to be more formal. However, if it's a narrative, I think you get more leniency. And when you know the answers to these questions, you will be able to identify and use the appropriate tone. Just practice makes perfect. You're going to write, a text is different than an email to your boss. Believe me. And then in turn, an appropriate tone will help you engage your reader, propel him or her to action. So the idea is just to make sure that you are being as effective as possible. And if you're trying to convince people, especially with academic writing, being formal or being professional is the best way to be taken seriously. Oh yeah. What's next? I don't know what's next. Okay. Word choice. And I like this quote from Confucius. If language is incorrect, then what is said is not meant. If what is said is not meant, then what ought to be done remains undone. This idea of the importance of word choice. If you aren't being effective, you're not going to get your message across. So, why is it important? Well, word choice and choosing your words correctly is important because there's over 500,000 words in the English language. Being particular makes things a little bit easier. Being upset, irritated, and being furious are all different terms, but they're all showing some form of being mad. And it makes a difference in the quality of your writing because if you substitute the wrong word or a vague word, you're being at risk of being misunderstood. So make sure that you choose the right word, always. And you must transfer your thoughts on paper using the proper words so that other people can clearly understand your ideas. So every day in your life is building, trying to, set out your opinion and say that your opinion is right. The more effective you are at proving that, the better you are at being effective with that. And the better you are at your job and et cetera, in every daily life. Cool. Why is it important? Continued. Why is word choice important? So if you use the wrong word in a sentence, you can make the reader laugh or not take you seriously. At my previous job before I was teaching, I had to look at people's resumes and cover letters. If they used a wrong word, it never went up to the hiring manager because they would say, "Why are you wasting my time with that?" So an example of using improper words. Unless I get to the bank soon, I will be forced to lead an immortal life. So if I don't go to the bank, I'll live forever. Okay? And it would be immoral. So it's implying if I don't get to the bank soon, I'll have to, steal from someone. Another example, Dobermans make good pets if you train them with enough patience. So it's, the sound is correct, the word is wrong. Patience like a doctor's patience. Like people in a hospital, that's the patience there. Where we're looking at patience in terms of being patient and being able to wait your turn. And he dreamed of eating desert. So again, he dreams of eating sand. It doesn't really make sense. So always make sure that you're looking at the proper word, or in other words, the denotation. And another thing that people try to use, especially in high school, is using wordy and long sentences because they think that the more you write, the more intelligent you sound. But in reality, the more concise you are, more straight to the point, the better and more happy people are. Unless you're looking at narratives, being concise and to the point is most of the time the most effective method. Another idea to avoid that is just make sure that you are being concise. Don't use redundant words or the words that mean the same thing. Reverted back. So sent back. Reflected back. Sent back. New innovation. Innovation already means something new. Red in color. Yeah, I know red's a color. Say red. A true fact. All facts are true, so a fact. Fell down. I fell. Easy. Final outcome. Outcome is going to be the finality anyway. Cooperate together. They both have the same connotation, which we'll get to in a moment. Use appropriate language. So jargon is similar to being wordy, but it's when you're using words that are excessive. We don't need to use a synonym.com to try to find bigger words. So jargon is specialized language used among members of a trade, profession, or group. Most readers aren't familiar. So if you are in a biochemistry lab and you know all the terms, write in that fashion. But if we're not in that department, if you're trying to write to me and you are a biochemist or an astrophysicist, please use simple terms because I have a simple mind. So an example of jargon. For years, the indigenous body politic of South Africa attempted to negotiate legal enfranchisement without result. Which really all it means is for years, the indigenous people of South Africa negotiated in vain for the right to vote. There we go. It's simple. I know what it says. Make it easy for me. And avoid being pretentious. Pretentious is kind of like using more words and just trying. It's a blend of, using jargon and being wordy. So it's pompous, inflated language. If you want your prose easily understood, write as clearly and plainly as possible. When you're writing academic writing, get to the point. So here's an example of a memo from a government, which would be like a bureaucratic order. Such preparations shall be made as will completely obscure all federal buildings and non-federal buildings occupied by the federal government during an air raid for any period of time from visibility by reason of internal or external illumination. That's pretty pretentious. Instead, revised would be tell them that in buildings where they have to keep the work, going to put something across the windows. So there's something going on, block the windows. That's all you had to say. And of course, in academic writing, avoid slang. The benefit of slang is that it creates an identity for a group. However, slang gets outdated more than any other type of word or language. So just example of old slang, give me some skin, far out, that song is fire. If you're using that slang in your academic writing, you will either show how young you are, or you will show how old you are, and people will resent you for it. I don't think you want to hear me say something's lit, Because even by default, I think that's already 5 years late. Just whenever you're thinking of writing in an academic setting, think of the band KISS, which I use as an acronym for Keep It Short and Simple. That's all you gotta do. So now let's look at denotation and connotation. Denotation means the literal meaning of the word. Connotation is the emotional association that surrounds that word's meaning. So think of denotation, home and residence. Denotation, the definition means both where someone lives. However, the idea of someone's home versus their residence changes the emotion. So I would say home is a little bit more cozy, where residence is just maybe a possible professional setting. You're a traveler, you're out on a business trip, and this is a temporary apartment. Another example would be old and antique. Both mean old. However, old can just mean old for age, and antique is usually a positive or good connotation that it's valuable. But let's go ahead and keep on looking at some examples. So let's look at scrawny and svelte. Denotation, they both kind of mean slender, slim, skinny. So scrawny is skinny, gaunt, or emaciated. Versus svelte means slender, slim, or suave. Suave could also mean cool. So when we're thinking of calling someone scrawny and calling someone svelte, what do you think the emotional idea is? So there's always going to be negative, positive, and neutral connotation. Negative, bad emotion. Positive, good emotion. Neutral, it's just a description. So scrawny, what a scrawny person they are. It's a negative connotation. It's not a good thing to be called scrawny. However, svelte, I said I think he's suave. Should have been I think he's svelte, which means that you think that he's attractive, then slim, and that means it's a positive or good connotation. Let's look at cheap and frugal. Both can refer to someone that doesn't spend a lot of money. Cheap, doesn't spend money, he's cheap. He's frugal, doesn't spend money. So an example, let's look at the emotional idea. Sean is so cheap that he only left at 5% tip. Negative connotation, it's not good. The minimum now is 15 to 20%. And then frugal. Sarah is so frugal that she paid off her home in 10 years. That's pretty good. That's a good positive connotation. And let's look at one more. So old just means having lived for a long time. We already talked about it. So old just means it's a neutral, just a descriptive factor. Old Faithful is a geyser at Yellowstone Park that can be seen several times a day. Vintage is a positive connotation. That's a good thing. The vintage watch's craftsmanship is so reliable that it is more accurate than new watches. And then decrepit is old, but kind of breaking down. When I entered the decrepit home, I was surprised that it hadn't collapsed on itself yet. Negative or bad connotation. So we're looking at connotation, negative, positive, and neutral. Here's some examples. So interested is positive, questioning is neutral, negative is nosy. So there's your example right there. You can keep on reading for examples, but I also have some exercises below. So with this exercise, what you would do is that you would look at these 4 words, all roughly mean the same. And you're going to decide which one's positive, which one's negative, and which one will be neutral. That's just a description. So childlike, that person's being childlike. Youthful, childish, and young. So with that, we would say childlike is positive. Or, excuse me. Yeah, childlike is positive, youthful is positive. Childish, though, stop being childish. It's negative. And then they are young. It's just a descriptor. There's more examples here. That's your vocab for this week. Again, it's just a way, or no, this is your grammar, not your vocab. Look at this because you will have some multiple choice questions, and you're going to have to decide which of the terms is either positive, negative, or neutral in connotation. Good luck with week 3, part 2.